Hello and welcome to Spardha Lines, your one-stop destination for the civil services preparation, UPSC, KPSC and other relevant state level examinations. We will try and understand some of the important articles that are in news from the Hindu newspaper. These articles are important both from your pre as well as your mains examination perspective. Let us try and understand what are these articles. The first article speaks about the concept of secularism that is prevalent in France, and we will also take a look at in comparison with the Indian form of secularism. The article here is important from your GS paper 1 perspective, which is social issues. What is this article speaking about? The article here is speaking about the French principle of secularism called as a laïcité. We will try and understand what is this concept, how did it origin, what are the issues and concerns with respect to it, and what is the way forward when it comes to such approaches on the social issue front and also from the international relations front. Let's understand the context. What is the context? The French government announced the practice of wearing abaya would be banned in state-run schools as it violated the principle of laïcité, which happens to be the French idea of secularism. What is this abaya? This happens to be a dress or a robe or a form of a dress which is worn by the women. As shown in the image, this is what is called as the abaya. What does the French government say? The French government says that in the public schools, that is those institutions that are run by the French government, in these institutions, in case there are school going children who are wearing these abayas, they should not be wearing these abayas in those schools which are run by the government. Why do they come up with it? That is because they go on to say that this is against the French principle of secularism. They go on to say that there have been established principles and practices that have been practiced in the French society, and as a result, if you are wearing these abayas in the school, it is against the established ethos of the French society. So this article basically goes about speaking the French principle of secularism. We will understand what is this concept, when did it originate, and what is the crux of this article. When you go back to the 17th century, what you had is the French Revolution. Most of us, without even understanding the concept of what is right wing, what is left wing, we go and support a particular ideology. So this ideology of right wing politics or left wing politics that we usually utter has originated from the French Revolution. So most of you all, in case you are speaking with your friends, they say that you belong to the left ideology, you belong to the right ideology, that you are a leftist, you are a rightist. But what is this left wing and the right wing ideology? Where did it originate from? It all originated from this very idea of French Revolution. What exactly happened? You had a certain section of people who were supporting a conservative society. You had a certain section of people who were rich as well. They were supporting the conservative cultural value system. So all those people who in the hall in the France sit by the right side were called as the right wing people. So who are the right wing people? These are the people who support conservatism. These are the people who believe in capitalism. These are the people who believe that innovation will have to be given a frequent subjective matter to, and ultimately those people who sat on the right side of the hall, that is the clergies and also the corporate and also the king class, such people were called as the right wing. So right wing basically means those people who during the French Revolution time in the hall sat on the right side and they support these values were called as the right wing people. So in case you are a person who believes in these value systems, that you believe in conservatism, which means to say you believe in a cultural aspect, you believe in the clergy, the class, the saints, so on and so forth, and you also support innovation, you also support what is called as the capitalistic model, those are called as the right wing. Then what you have is the left wing. The left wing basically support the mass movement. Basically the left also support what is called as the prevalence of the mass movement, where you have massive number of people supporting the bourgeois community. So what you have is the proletariat and the bourgeois. The bourgeois happens to be what is called as the capitalistic class and the proletariat are the working class. So the working class people, in case they are supported, that is what is called as left wing. Why are we discussing about it? This is just information that I would wanted to give you, where you have the right wing politics and the left wing politics which came up during the French Revolution. A similar concept of principle of secularism called as laïcité came up during the French Revolution. What happened during the French Revolution? So you had one class of people, the left side, who were seated, who believed that it is a proletariat who have to win. So the proletariat basically meaning it is a Russian Revolution concept, but to help you understand, I am explaining this. So proletariats are the people who have this mass number of people who are wanting to establish an egalitarian society. They believe in the principle of equality. They believe that there is no high and low, and all that they want to do is to establish a society based on equality and against the conservatism. So all the left side in the French Revolution, I mean in the hall during the French Revolution, were called as the left wing people. So as you have the right wing people, you also have the clergies, the saints who are sitting on the right hand side. These people, that is the church as well as the clergy, were dominating the French Empire. They were dominating the French society. Their words were discussed, and ultimately whatever they uttered during that particular period were also taken the sanction of law as well. So you have the clergy class, you have this particular class who were representing the church. Whatever the religious values were imposed by these clergies, the same was followed by the society. This was not taken easily by the left wing, as in those people who were sitting on the left side during the French Revolution. So they said, we want to establish an egalitarian society, we want to bring about equality, we want to bring about equanimity in the society. So ultimately all these clergies, imposition in the society was completely to be separated. So those people who wanted to ensure that the church is separate and the society is separate, that led to the French principle of secularism. So what did the French principle of secularism say? The French principle of secularism said that the church will remain the church and will not be imposing its values into the society. So in case there is a religion, in case there are religious practices, in case there are religious customs and cultures that is prevalent, it has to be kept in the private sphere, and the state, that is the society, will act independently. So as they act independently, there will be no more religious values that will be present as part of the society. In case you have a particular religion, in case you have a practice, in case you have a custom and other practices that you have to follow, you can do so under the private level within the sphere. But when it comes to the society, since we want to establish egalitarian society, we do not want any imposition from the religion. So what we will have is an egalitarian society where religion and its dictates and its values will not be imposed on the society. So at this particular moment during the French Revolution, the laïcité or the French principle of secularism clearly mandated that clear-cut separation between the church as well as the state. The church will have its own value system, it will have its own parameters, and this will be followed at the private level. And when it comes to the state will have its own set of laws, and we will establish egalitarian society, we will bring in equality into the society, and this society will be completely free of all religious values. So this concept of French principle of secularism basically emanates from the French Revolution, and it goes on to say that all those people who separate this particular thought believe that the state will act in precedence and the state will not take any religious values, and in the open, in the society, in the social picture, what we will have is separation, clear-cut separation when it comes to the state as well as the church and its principles. That is how this particular concept of French principle of secularism came into picture. The French principle of secularism also meant that in the public places and also in the, let's say, a public hall, there will be no person who will be wearing up the religious symbols. Let's say, for example, this is for all religions irrespective of Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Sikhism, irrespective of all religions, you will not be able to have your customs prevalent in a public place and also in the public espoused institutions. Let's say for example there is a school, this particular school is funded by the French government, by the state. In those areas you will not be able to wear any of the cultural identities of your religion. Let's say for example, we have had examples in the past from the French society where if a person who is from a Sikh community is wearing a turban, he is been asked to remove the turban. If there is a person from a particular religion, let's say Christianity, if they are supporting a particular custom of Christianity, that is not allowed in that particular space where it is funded by the state government. In other religions like Islam as well, in case you are wearing something like the abaya, as we have shown in the picture, they are not supposed to wear it in the public places, in those places that are run by the state. So this basically believes that you should not be attached to your religion in the public places. That is the French principle of secularism, and it ultimately said you can do whatsoever you wish to do in the private sphere, but when it comes to the public sphere, we will have equality. There will be no religious symbols whatsoever, and this concept emanated from the principle of French Revolution. Now the issue is that when you go back to the 1945s and much prior to that, France as a country was a homogeneous community, which means to say that you had a particular section of people who had similar frequency and wavelength when it comes to such customs and the practices, and they have imported the same concept into their people as well. But of late, that is after 1945 and after decolonization, you had couple of countries which were under the control of the France. So you have number of countries, let's say for example Morocco, or let's say for example Algeria. These are the countries which are present on the northern part of Africa. They were also under the control of the French Empire as well. And after decolonization, after these countries were given independence, that is after the Second World War, what France wanted was cheap labor. So there was homogeneous community, that is most of these people were practicing Christians. So there was completely homogeneous customs, and there were no other religious people who were present in France. But after the Second World War, when decolonization happened, when number of countries became independent, these people from different countries like Morocco, Algeria, where you had French people governing them, once decolonization happened, the people from Algeria, Morocco started moving towards France as well. These people who started moving from the northern part of Africa, who were practitioners of Islam as well as other customs, when they moved to France, which was predominantly Christian ruling country, what they witnessed was cultural changes. So a country which was monoculture, which had one single culture, one single religion, become cosmopolitan and completely plural as well. And over a period of time, you had people from multiple religions coming up to France. When such homogenization becomes heterogenization, obviously what we have to support is the plurality. What is this concept of plurality? That there will be more customs, more people from different religions. All these aspects will have to be supported. But over a period of time, this homogeneous society become heterogeneous society, and when more number of people come up to this particular country who do not subscribe to the same value system, this created a conflict and a friction, ultimately leading to what is called as chaos in some pockets of France. Why? That is because this France principle of secularism basically went on to say that you are not supposed to wear these kind of religious symbols in the public places in the society, especially when it is funded by the state. But in few pockets, what we had is people from a particular religion or from different religions started wearing their religious identity on their sleeves. This was against the French principle of secularism, and as a result, there were conflict between a certain section of the people, between the society of France with respect to another religion. And in 2001, what we also had was the attack in New York against the so-called Western principles of secularism, and a certain section of people started antagonizing a certain other section of people from a different community. So we've also had couple of examples as well, that we've had examples of Charlie Hebdo. We have also seen in 2011 France banned the wearing of facing covering veils in the public places. Very such controversial decision of the France state in the name of laicity had led to new interpretations of the principle. In fact, a Sikh man was asked to remove the turban for an official photograph. The debate was increasingly moved to Muslim practices in the last few decades. So what we are witnessing is constant examples where people from different religions, it is not just, mind you, Islam or Sikh or Hinduism, even Christianity was taken into the picture, which means to say they wanted to be completely egalitarian where religious symbols were not present in the society. This ultimately created a lot of friction. Why? That is because when you consider 1945 and much prior to that, yes, France was a country which was homogeneous in nature. Now it is heterogeneous. So you have to respect the plurality. So before you had homogeneous society, so you have people of different religions who are now contributing to the France secularism, France society. So you have to be plural. So the first major issue is France currently is not plural. Whenever a woman is wearing a certain kind of dress or she wants to wear a kind of dress that she wants to wear, it is no one's issue. That is, she is wearing that particular symbol because she likes it. But if it is a symbol which is being opposed because the society doesn't want it, this is against the established principles of freedom of expression. So she wishes to wear a particular dress. If the society is opposing it, the law is opposing it, and it is not going in with the majority perspective, that is wrong. Here women's right to wear her costume is also not respected, says this article. So this is also oppression and this should not be promoted are some of the concerns. So what we have to understand in this particular backdrop is you will have questions in your GS paper 1 in the social issues trying to ask you a question: what are the differences between the Western model of secularism to the Indian model of secularism, or what are the differences between the French principle of secularism and Indian principle of secularism. When we speak about Indian principle of secularism, we believe in Sarva Dharma Samabhav, which means to say all religions are equal. In Western society, there is clear-cut separation of state and the religion. But in India, we do not have clear-cut separation. Yes, the state will not interfere, but at the same time, if there is a reformative concept that comes into picture, the state can interfere as well. The state will not interfere into the religious matters, but the state will interfere in the secular matters. What are these secular matters? Let's say, for example, there is a woman, and this particular woman is not allowed to enter into a premise of a temple or into the premise of a dargah or into a premise of a church or the premise of a, let's say, a mosque. In all these cases, is it violating the equality principle? In that case, the state may interfere, the judiciary may interfere, they can make the laws as well. In such cases, the state will interfere, but that is not the same when it comes to the Western concept. We do interfere only in the secular aspects of the religion, but in other religious aspects, we do not interfere. So the major difference is that we have Sarva Dharma Samabhav, which means all religions will be treated equally. We will not interfere with the religious aspect. Only in those aspects where individual rights are getting violated because of imposition of the religious rights, the state may step in, the judiciary may step in, laws can be made in those areas. But when it comes to the France, what we have is multiculturalism, which is not being respected, and over the plurality which should have been accepted and embraced by the society is yet not being embraced because there is imposition of a certain value system which is not right, is what is this article all about. So France will have to move from this homogenization, will have to respect multiculturalism, is what is this article all about, and this is the concept of the French principle of secularism. Now let's look into the next article. This article is important from your environment and ecology perspective. The article here is speaking about what is called as the concept of sand mining. We will take up this article a bit later about Andhra Pradesh and so on and so forth, but the concept of this article is important. What is the concept? The concept is the issue is about sand mining. We will take the example of Andhra Pradesh in few minutes right now, but understand the concept of sand mining. What is sand mining? As the very name denotes, sand mining. So what are we doing here? We are referring to the process of removal of sand. So when sand is removed from, let's say, rivers, or it is removed from lake, or it is removed from the ocean bed as well, that is what is called as sand mining. So what is sand mining? Removing of the sand from the rivers, the lakes and the seabed is what is called as sand mining. When you consider the laws in the country, under the Indian Constitution, the state government owns the minerals located within its boundaries, while the central government owns the minerals within the exclusive economic zone. So within the boundaries of the country, so let's say if this is the coastal belt, whatever happens internally, those are all under the control of the state government. But if it is the oceanic water that we have, that will come under the control of the central government. The International Seabed Authority regulates mineral exploration and extraction, and India has an exclusive right to explore polymetallic nodules in the central Indian Ocean basin. And sand is classified as a minor mineral under the Mine and Minerals Development and Regulations Act of 1957, and the administrative control over minor minerals vests with the state governments. So who has the control over minor minerals? It is the state government, and this can be prospectively asked in your preliminary examination. So you have major minerals, you have the minor minerals. In the minor minerals, the control is under the state government. So the state government would be able to make the rules, come up with the regulations, issue circulars, and ultimately control how these minor minerals are exploited from their own state. Now what we have to understand is, when we speak about sand mining, what are we speaking about? There are two types of sand mining. One, where you have the license from the government, there is a prescribed path as to how you have to mine it, and you also have regulations beyond which there is a threshold and a limit that is prescribed, beyond which a person will not be able to mine the sand from that river or the lake, and sustainably it will be allowed to regenerate as well. This is the legitimate one. What we are speaking in this article is sand mining which is illegal in nature. What is sand mining illegal in nature? That the government has not given permission to it, the authorities have not given permission to it. Even if they have given permission, they would have put a limit that you will be able to extract so and so amount of sand. But beyond it, if that particular company or an individual is doing, that is also illegal in nature. So there is legal entity, there is illegal entity. Legal entity is a sanction given by the state government, illegal entity is no sanction by the government, and then there is prescribed limit which an organization is following, which is legal. If it is over the prescribed limit, that once again is illegal. So when it comes to illegal sand mining, we have the own share of concerns that this article speaks about. What are these concerns? Whenever we speak about illegal sand mining, it could lead to depletion of the groundwater reserves. So as a result, this will cause a lot of water scarcity in that region. So what happens is, the soil is able to keep up to the water content in that part of the lake or the river. But if the sand is removed, what it could result is scarcity of water. One such example is Yamuna River in the Yamunanagar district of Haryana is facing a severe threat from mechanized and unsustainable stone and sand mining. This could also result in that whenever there is excessive sand mining that takes place, this could also make the riverbed shallow, which can also increase the floods in that region. We have witnessed such occurrences in the state of Kerala repeatedly, and in Bihar, sand mining has caused increasing flooding in Ghosi river, resulting in crop and property damages. And once we constantly go on to mine it illegally, the course of the river also changes. Whenever there is a sand, what you will have is a floodplain, and it is within this particular floodplain that you will have the rivers in case of excessive water. But if the constant river, where the river flows, the sand is removed, then the river flow will also change. This could ultimately create flood-like situations as well. Unregulated sand mining also involves illegal activities such as encroachment of the public land, corruption, as well as the evasion of the taxes. So whenever a permission is given by the government that they would be able to mine a part of the sand in that area, these companies will be paying the taxes. But when it happens on illegal level, they would not be paying the taxes. There is loss to the exchequer as well. There is corruption in the system because of the nexus between these organizers as well as the corrupted officials, and they would also guard the public land. They would take away the public land and conduct their activities, which is against the established principle of the social contract theory. Within the aquatic systems like rivers and lake, sand supports organisms that are vital to the supply chain and to the food chain as well. But what happens of late, when the sand mining is happening on an illegal basis and it is not sustainable as well, number of aquatic species may go extinct. Illegal sand mining is thought to be a major cause for several animal species residing in Ganga. In fact, some of the species have also gone extinct. Some of their numbers have also gone reducing as well. For example, the Gangetic dolphin or the gharial or the northern river terrapin. These are some of the species whose numbers have been reducing in the Ganga river primarily because of the illegal sand mining. So these are some of the issues that have been persisting because of the illegal activities in the sand region. So what is done by the government to overcome this particular issue? To address all these issues, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change issued sustainable sanding management guidelines to encourage sustainable sand mining practices that are based on scientific principles and environmentally friendly management practices. And an alternative to this is that the country and government is also promoting manufactured sand as well. So what is the alternative to illegal sand activities? We can promote what is called as the manufactured sand. This manufactured sand is cost effective, it is consistent, it has its own environmental benefits, it has reduced water consumption, it has better workability, land occupied by OB dumps can be freed from alternative useful purposes, recovery of sand from waste overburden is the best out of waste product, commercial sale of produced sand can generate additional revenue for coal companies, then there is lesser sand extraction from soil which will reduce erosion of the channel bed, banks and protect the water habitat, and this will help in maintaining the water table as well. So if we are moving from the normal extraction of the sand in the river to what is called as manufactured sand, these are the benefits that may occur, says this article. So basically the article in the present situation is speaking about illegal sand mining activities that is taking place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So the author in this particular case goes on to say that if such actions continue to happen, what we will have is a problem to the state of Andhra Pradesh in terms of its development. It is not being regulated. There is illegal sand mining that is taking place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So what we require is not just laws, not just policy, but a proper implementation of these policies. We have understood what sand mining is, we have understood what laws are, we have understood what these illegal consequences can result into, we have also understood what needs to be way forward. So apply that to the state of Andhra Pradesh, that if there is no sustainable practices, this could lead to some of the consequences which are disastrous for the environment, and the measures that have to be taken are the alternatives. Only that we have an example in Andhra Pradesh where there is unchecked sand mining that is taking place. In order to overcome, what we have to do is keep a check on it and follow the established principles, is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says IAF begins Western Air Command's annual exercise. Remember, the article here is speaking about exercise Trishul. Exercise Trishul is important from the preliminary examination point of view, and this is undertaken by the Western Air Command. What is the aim of the exercise? The exercise is aimed at testing command's operational preparedness, given its scale and complexity, a high level of coordination and preparedness that is involved. So what are the equipments that are used? What is used under this Western Command as of now? The exercise will see activation of all air assets and force multipliers across the line of control with Pakistan, along the line of actual control with China. So basically there will be deployment of jets, transport aircraft, helicopters and other force multipliers which will be in high tempo. So the jets, aircraft transporters and then helicopters will all be employed basically to test the operational preparedness. Because it is a huge exercise, this will require coordination from multiple forces. So how do we coordinate? Only when we practice we would be able to coordinate. So they are practicing in the present situation along the line of actual control and line of control. The exercise will largely cover frontline bases in Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Following the eastern Ladakh border row, that is on the Chinese front, the IAF has significantly enhanced its combat capabilities as part of the series of measures including procurement of new equipment and weapon systems. So this exercise happens to be exercise Trishul and this is undertaken by the Western Air Command. This happens to be an annual exercise where they want to enhance the coordination as well as operational preparedness. Now let's look into the next article. This article speaks about maritime infrastructure perspective plan. So this is important from your pre as well as your mains examination perspective, where you have the Minister of State for Defence who has released the maritime infrastructure perspective plan for 2023 to 37. What is this all about? This was released basically to enhance the infrastructure for the Navy. The MIPP aims to synchronize and enmesh infrastructure requirements of the Navy over the next 15 years through a comprehensive plan model. So this plan model is basically wanting to enhance the Navy infrastructure, conduct the activities of indigenization and ultimately build our own bases as well. So this is an activity that is undertaken to build the infrastructure. The MIMM also, the plan also document is aligned with the government's vision on creation of sustainable infrastructure, which encompasses salience from compliance with broader policy directives on the PM Shakti project, disaster resilience, transitions to net zero among others. And they also released what is called as the Indian Register for Shipping Rules and Regulations Handbook, Family Logbook and Electronic Service Document Project, the IRS Rules and Regulations Handbook for Construction and Classification of Naval Combatants has also been revised to cater for technological advancement as well as Atmanirbharata. So this article basically goes on to say that we have a plan in place which is wanting to enhance the naval infrastructure for the next 15 years so that we have more indigenization as well as Atmanirbharata. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about NOTA. What is this NOTA? None of the above. This was a concept that was introduced in the year 2013, and this basically means that at the end of this election machine, what you have is the EVM machine where you would be able to cast the votes. So you go to the polling booth. In the polling booth, you will have the candidate list. You will also have the party that candidate is attached to. At the end of the EVM machine, what you will also have is the NOTA at the end of the machine. So what does NOTA mean? NOTA means none of the above, that I do not like any of the candidates that have been posted by the political parties. So NOTA button made its debut in assembly elections in 2013 in 4 states: Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, and the National Capital Territory Delhi. India became the 14th country to institute negative voting through NOTA. So the last button on the EVM machine will have a button called as NOTA, which basically means that you do not like any of these candidates and the political parties, and as a result you go press the NOTA button on the EVM machine. Now there are a couple of questions that you need to ask. What if the number of NOTA votes are far more than the maximum votes that have been taken by the candidate? Let's say there is a candidate from party A who's got about 10,000 votes, hypothetical numbers, who's got about 10,000 votes. this is a person who's got the maximum, so he should be ideally winning and he will win the elections as well. But what needs to be understood is that if the NOTA is, let's say, about 11,000, even if it is 11,000, will it disqualify the elections? No. So NOTA is just about putting out your anger and nothing else. But if there is a candidate who, despite NOTA having 11,000, has got less than NOTA as well, he will go on to win the elections. So whosoever is getting the maximum votes, despite NOTA getting more than that person, it is the person who's got the maximum votes who will still go about winning the elections. So remember, this article goes on to say that NOTA is the last one that is present in the EVM machine, and if NOTA has got more than that person who's got the maximum vote, it is still that person who wins, and there will be no disqualification, there will be no re-election whatsoever. It is this that we have to understand with respect to NOTA. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, ready to assess capacity of 13 hill states, government tells Supreme Court. So the government has proposed forming a 13-member technical committee to evaluate the carrying capacity of 13 Himalayan states. What is the issue? Frequent landslips leading to deaths and destruction has led to Supreme Court to moot a revaluation of the load carrying capacity of the hill towns. So what we will have is the carrying capacity is the maximum population size that an ecosystem can sustain without getting degraded. This is the important point, and which is why we have taken this question. So what is the carrying capacity? It is that capacity or the maximum number of people or the population in that locality where they can live as part of the ecosystem. If the numbers increase, this basically means that sustainability is not taken into picture and the ecosystem as a whole will get degraded. So what is the carrying capacity meaning? The carrying capacity is the maximum population. It is the utmost population that an ecosystem, that ecology, that particular system can sustain without getting degraded. And now, because there are landslides, there are repeated issues that are occurring in the hill states, the government has said that we will appoint a committee to look into this carrying capacity and will also give suitable recommendations to the Supreme Court of India, on the basis of which the Supreme Court of India can have the deliberations for the same. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. So this is it for today. In case you are liking these initiatives, please to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also share it with your fellow aspirants as well. All the best. Thank you.